Excellent. It's wonderful to meet you, Jodie. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. So great to be here
Yeah,
on this. What is it, Tuesday
I hope
morning?
so. They better not have lied. With everything going on, at least we can rely on days being correct. Yeah. So
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, it's Tuesday where I am, Joe. I don't know about you.
I hope it is. I'm hoping, I'm banking on Tuesday. So it's great to meet you. And I want to begin our journey into 5 years ago, this pandemic. I know we get fatigued by talking about it, but there was so much that changed in our lives. How much of living through that has affected your life today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know about you, but I don't know if you remember that moment where everything just really shut down,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
there was one moment where one day we were all together, we were hanging out. I was living in New York City, right? So I was getting bagels from my favorite bagel shop. I was hanging out with my friends. And then the next day, life completely transformed.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy, right? There was no schema for what it really meant to be at home, right? We forgot how, you know, what it was actually going to be like in the world. And so it was a tough moment because we had to reimagine everything, right? How we gather in community, how we build relationships, how we connect with others. So many of those pieces we had to completely reimagine. And I'm Jewish, and it was really close to the holiday of Passover. And so we had to completely reimagine how are we going to gather a
Yeah.
holiday that's really meant to be in community. How do we gather? How do we connect? And so for me, so much of my work now is helping others think about how we connect or how we build relationships more deeply. But I think so much of the origins of that really started from the pandemic, where we had to get really creative.
Yeah.
And instead of just gathering the ways that we knew how to do, right, we had to really rethink it all in a
Yeah.
really different way.
Yeah. So let's get to what you exactly do here in 2025. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of kids, and that's the best way to like boil down our essence. It's career day, it's a fifth grader, they're curious. How do you answer what you do for a living?
It's a great question. And I love, right? Kids are so curious. And so they ask such incredible questions. So I think it's a great backdrop to drop you into. I call myself a relational engagement strategist, right? So just like if you're playing a game of chess, you would never make a move on the chessboard without a strategy, right?
Yeah.
Or if
Sure.
you're playing a video game, you'd never, right, like make a move without thinking about what are two or three strategic ways I can move on the board. The
Yeah.
same thing goes with how we build relationships, right? So many of us go into meetings or we even go into classrooms and we think, oh, it's going to be important for us to build relationships, right? We should do that, right? And oftentimes we come up with a question like, what is your favorite ice cream, right? And
Yeah.
that question doesn't tell me anything about you, Joe, although I'm sure you have a great ice cream flavor that you could tell me,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Nor does it actually connect to any of the content of the meeting or the gathering, right? And so it's so important for us not to just come with any question, but to really be strategic and think, what's going on in this gathering or this meeting? And how do we create a strategy, just like we would when we play sports, when we play games? And so that's really what I do. And I really love it. Like being with people lights me up. It gets me
Absolutely.
excited. But it's all about how we strategize.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly is. So what did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream life?
So my dream was always to work with people in some capacity. I'm the daughter of two social workers. So I knew that helping others would be a part of what I do.
Yeah.
Um, and I went to school. I have a dual master's in Jewish education and Hebrew Bible. So really, really sexy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
Jewish education's like the framework, and Bible was sort of like the anthropologic study of the Bible. And for many years, I was a nonprofit professional. But when it boiled down to it, I realized that people came to the workshops we ran for content, right?
Yeah.
They were educators and they wanted to learn new tools and strategies to bring back to their learning spaces. But why they came back was for community,
Yeah.
right? They came back to be in relationships with others.
Yeah.
And so I realized that the work isn't helping people learn more, although that's great, right?
Sure.
Knowledge is power in a lot of ways. the work is really helping people build relationships because it's a muscle, right?
Yeah,
And if we don't exercise that muscle, and we put people in a room and we say, connect with each other, but we don't help them think about how to do it, right?
right.
Then
Yeah,
we're doing everyone a disservice.
yeah. So I wonder, I grew up, my dad was Catholic and we didn't really go to church much. And I've
Mhm.
kind of floundered around and tried to find some non-denominational types. And in Eastern theology makes a lot of sense to me, but I've always had such good experiences with rabbis. I'm very envious of the Jewish community because the rabbi just seems like a cool cat. Like the kind of guy that's like supposed to be all of these different levels of priests and different theologies, but wrapped up into somebody that has kind of like a lawyer swagger. They know a little bit about everything. They're artistically inclined. You can open up to them. It's not taboo. You don't have to be in a confessional chamber. There just seems to be something that's refreshing. Is that a true assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I think what's powerful about Judaism is not that there's this sort of, um, you know, biblical text out there that you must know,
Yeah.
but Jews ask questions, right? That's part of the religion. And I think what's so powerful about the role of the rabbi or the role of sort of Jewish educators that are out there is that they're inviting you to be curious, to ask about the religion, to think about how do we take this ancient text and how do we make it meaningful for me, right? Because there's, right, if it's not meaningful, then why am I going to actually continue to be inspired by it and continue to live by sort of what it says? And that's why I think Judaism is a powerful religion, because it's an invitation to be curious about who you are, who the religion is, and how you connect with that religion in a really interesting way.
So I know you came from a background of social work and helping people, but when did you know the moment that it was right for you? Was there a client? Was there an epiphany? What was the light that broke through that made you feel like this was your existence?
Yeah. Oh, such a great question. So I spent a decade as a nonprofit professional and I loved it. I had so much fun, right? But I was starting to sense that the real work was connecting people, was helping people see the value in one another, and build relationships, because that's what kept us coming back. And I was in a fellowship for mid-career professionals. And we did this exercise where people put on post-it notes around the room what are like what's something that you want to mine from the wisdom of the group, right? And so many people were like, okay, what's a great book that you're reading, that's been inspiring, right? But of the 20 people, okay, almost half of them said some semblance of, I have, I'm leading a meeting, I'm leading a retreat, I'm leading some sort of gathering, and I need your best icebreaker, right? But Joe, here's the problem. An icebreaker is not a strategy,
Right.
right? An icebreaker doesn't tell me much about you, right? What I realized is here are these incredible mid-career professionals who are so thoughtful, so bright, who are the future of our community. And still, they're not sure how to really that muscle. They're not sure the import like how to exercise that muscle, nor the importance of that muscle. And so I think that was my light bulb that, wow, like this is not just something that I'm noticing, but this is actually there's a need for this.
Yeah.
And I think post-pandemic, right, there's also been a greater need for a lot of this work, right? So many organizations are remote. And what's beginning to happen is you're seeing these remote teams work all over the world. And so and organizations are bringing them together 2, 3 times a year to gather intentionally.
Yeah.
And what they need is somebody like a relational strategist like myself, right? To help, since they're only gathering in person just a few times, to help them think about how can we create an opportunity for this group to get to know each other, and how can we help them see value in one another during the short time. Because it's so different than the way we used to work, like in an
Yeah.
office, more traditional space where relationships happened over lunch or at the coffee station. Joe, I don't know
Yeah.
if you ever worked in a more traditional setting, but those
Yeah.
right? Relationships just kind of came
Oh yeah.
about in an organic way.
Absolutely. No, I came from IT in the 90s and there was so much bonding and so much different. I mean, it was like we used to, I remember printing off MapQuest to find my way to places and just all of the old antiquitous ways that we would figure our lives out. It's just, we're just in a different era now. Everything's just totally weird. But a lot of what's happening now, I used to read in this thing called Weekly Reader when I was a kid, and it's happening. I mean, there's just all of these things that are coming to life, the Orwellian, dystopian kind of reliance on technology and AI, and it's like it's happening. It's like it's thank God we're not driving cars around in the sky like the Jetsons, because that would be a disaster. But
Joe, you don't actually know. That could happen at
it
any
could. It could. But I
point.
just keep thinking about the way that people are. Like, what happens when you wreck over a building or over a group of people? It's like, wait, no, this isn't, it's not okay. So, anyway, but they'll figure
Totally.
a way out.
But no, it's true. And I think with the rise of AI, right, so much of us we're trying to think about how can we use AI to make our lives more efficient, right?
Yeah.
But if I were to ask somebody, are you looking to make your life more efficient? Or are you actually looking to make your life more meaningful?
Right.
And I actually think people would choose meaning over efficiency, right?
Certainly.
Um, and so much of the work that I do is help people bring people into relationship with one another in order to imbue that meaning, right? Because we get meaning from being in relationship, right? Like Joe, you and I figuring out different places that we've lived or things that we love to do, right? And finding the connection like that's meaning. That's
Yep.
that's the work.
Yep.
And it's interesting. So many clients that I'm working with are like, Jodie, I have all this time, I have all this time, I have all this time. And so I hope, right, what good can come of AI is that time that we're now gaining because we're now maybe more efficient, we'll actually put towards thinking about how can we being deeper connection with people really because that's the work.
Absolutely. So, what was the client that made you grow the most? You went in and it may have
Yeah.
been daunting, but it turned into this revelatory moment that you look back on and smile about.
Yeah, so I think that's a fabulous question. And I think reflection is totally a part of the process of having your own business. There's so many things you learn from different clients about who you are, how you want to show up in the world, and of course, things that sort of what you're going to be doing next time. Um, I'm working currently with a client that's doing a team retreat. And it's been so powerful to see how we've gone from the kernel of an idea to actually envisioning this retreat for an organization that's over 3 or 4 continents. It's really incredible. And they're really pushing me to think about um, how do we create connection between this continent team um, in another country, and um, how do we find meaning and value in one another? I think what's been really interesting is this is a team that's never met in person before. And so we're translating, right? We're trying to dream and imagine what might it be like for them to meet for the very first time. And how do we create strategic opportunities for them to connect both before the retreat, during the retreat, and after the retreat,
Yep.
so that the retreat is not a means to an end, but it's a vehicle and it serves as one vehicle for building connections. And right when you're building a multi-team retreat, you're dealing with all kinds of people
Yep.
who are speaking different languages, who like
Mhm.
different snacks,
Yep.
who right like so it's really been fascinating to learn all this. So um I've enjoyed the process of learning about who they are and how this organization wants to be seen and show up in the world. But I think the most powerful component has been the growth that's happened both between them and between me. So it's been really
So,
cool.
so with all your clients, you're dealing with heavy stuff. You got to dip into their lives. You got to help them navigate. There's a lot of things that go into this. So let me ask you this. If you were to get into a room full of your clients throughout all the years and you swim through that sea of people and go to a podium and you can tell them one fun thing about you, a fun anecdote, just something that maybe would humanize you in a different way to them. What fun story would you tell them?
Oh, that's a huge question. I know.
Like a
I
first
listen.
concert, something fun, just something, just kind of fun.
Oh, I love that. Okay, first concert. All right. Okay, Joe, I feel like this would be even more fun if you play along with me. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm a 90s baby. Who
Uh-huh.
do you think my first concert was? This is great. Okay,
Oh,
just a total guess.
okay. I'm okay. I'm gonna go with. I'm either gonna go with an Alanis Morissette or some kind of like pop band. Um, maybe an NSYNC or something like that.
Okay, so like not too far, right? Like 90s was, a big time for all the boys pop bands, right?
Yeah,
Like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, all of them.
sure.
Um, it was Ricky Martin. Livin'
Wow.
La Vida Loca. I know. A
Yeah.
total blast from the past. And I'm telling you, Joe, if you were to say to me, Jodie, your first concert would be Ricky Martin, I don't actually think I would believe it.
Right.
But here we are,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
here to tell the tale. And whenever I tell people that, I met with like this utter like shock, like really, Jodie?
Right. Well, no, it makes sense. I mean, that was the thing at that time, and there were so many different things. I remember in the '90s, I would go from seeing like a really big alternative kind of grunge band to seeing something on the complete other side because there was festivals and there was all kinds of stuff going on. So, I mean, it was kind of the Wild West. The '90s was kind of a level of the '60s, but a different flavor of things. There were so many things going on, you know?
Oh, totally, totally. I know. Well, and it was such a funny era because my second concert was Backstreet Boys, so you were so close.
Okay, I was getting there.
I know. Well, the thing is, like, and during that time, right, like we had loyalists, right? Like maybe, back in the 50s, people were loyal to, Beatles or Beach Boys or right, different bands, right?
Sure.
Like in the 90s, we were loyal either to NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. And even though my one great love, JC Chavez on NSYNC, was on NSYNC, I was a Backstreet Boys loyalist. And actually, in my house, my husband and I play this game called NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, where we play a song
Yeah.
and he has to guess who sung it, right? And there's notable differences between the two.
Yeah.
But God love my husband, he has still, after like 30 songs, has not figured it out.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. You've traversed a lot of geography. You've gone through a lot of clients and different situations in your life. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what are you the proudest of?
Yeah, I'm really proudest. Okay, there are two things I think. One, it takes a lot to put yourself out there and to start your own business.
Sure.
When I was in the process of going out on my own, I would speak to people. I spoke to like 20 different people and I asked them, what's the secret sauce? And almost all of them said, you have the knowledge, right? It's about having the confidence in who you are and how you want to show up in the world.
Yeah.
That makes the difference
Mhm.
from having an idea to putting it out there. And so I'm proud of myself for taking the leap and actually believing in myself, because it can feel really hard to do, but I'm proud and it takes a lot to put yourself out there and to be vulnerable in that way. So I'm proud of that. And the second thing I'll share is I'm so proud of the relationship I had with my dad. My dad recently passed about a year ago.
Yeah.
And he was this larger than life man, so incredible, so down to earth, had so many relationships and friendships. And I feel like the work I'm doing now is such an extension of who he is and the love and the light that he puts out into the world. I was just it's Passover time. I was just at a Passover Seder and my cousin said to me, Jody, you look like your mom, but you remind me of your dad. And that was really one of the greatest compliments I could have ever received. So he didn't get to see me go out on my own, but I know that this is like a moment where I know he's proud
Yeah.
and I feel, so inspired by him even to this day.
That's
So
wonderful.
yeah,
So
thank
at
you.
the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, beautiful reflective questions. I know, Joe, where are you when I'm sitting by myself and I'm
Right.
like, and
Yeah.
I'm planning for my next year of what's my next sort of client gig going to look like? What am I going to
Yep.
put out into the world?
Huh?
But I think I am someone who people who know me know that I have a growth mindset. I really, I shared with you, I've lived in all four geographic regions of the country, and life is tough. And so I try hard, right? I'm not perfect to take life and think, you know, how can I, whatever life throws at you, how can you grow? How can you, like, how can you take something that's happened and how can you learn from it and how can you grow? And that's really hard, right? Like that's a hard thing. But it's something that I think a lot of people do know about me. And how do we think about things that happen in life as opportunities? Um, People also know that I'm so relationally driven, that the things that bring me the most meaning in life are relationships that I make with people around me. I have a 90-year-old neighbor who lives next door,
Yeah.
and every day he comes and knocks on the door just to say hello,
Yeah.
right? He'll share something with me like, Jody, guess what my big errand of the day was? And I'm like, what? And he's like, I got gas. And you know what? And it makes me just appreciate life so much.
Sure.
But that's what life is about, right? Life is about the relationship with your 90-year-old neighbor.
Yeah.
Life is about opportunities to build relationships with people. And it's not just something that's part of my business, but I really feel like it's who I am.
Yeah.
And I hope that people feel that when they get to know me. And Joe, I hope from this short conversation, like
Yeah.
you get to feel
I
that too.
totally get it. 100%. And that's the endearing thing because that's why we're here. I mean, when you boil down all the Beatles songs, you boil down all of the art that we consume, all of it at the end of the day comes down to this notion of love, which is tethered by relationships and a genuine curiosity about our human condition that we're all going through from good to bad and in between. So I'm curious, speaking of in between and all these spots all over the map, of all the places that you've lived, what's the one place you miss the most?
Ah, so I'll tell you, in each region, there are things that I miss the most. I miss the hustle bustle of New York, right?
Yeah.
Once you come, you go to LA, things look, feel, sound, taste, smell really different than they
Yeah.
did in New York City. I'll tell you
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I'm proud I found in Los Angeles, my husband and I live in an area where we can walk. It's like so countercultural. Like I'll tell people like, oh, I walk to the store. And they're like, Jody, like, didn't you need a car for that? I'm like, no, like
Yeah.
there's a great meme of like a New Yorker walking on the highway.
Yeah.
And that was me.
Yeah.
Okay. That was me, right? Okay. In LA. So, but I will tell you that my business is called Flourish Consulting. It's spelled Fleur, which is a French word, which means to bloom or blossom. And so that's I took that as an ode to an homage to living in New Orleans. And so I miss the food
Yeah.
so much in New
Yeah.
Orleans,
Yeah.
really in the culture. Have you ever been to New Orleans, Joe?
I need to go. I got married in 2019 and we were going to go and a hurricane was brewing. So we had to repivot and go to Manitou Springs, Colorado because we're in Kansas City. It was close and it made sense, but I really need to get down there.
Yeah, it's incredible. Just don't go during the summer. That's
Yep.
like that is a steam bath waiting to happen.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm just looking out for you,
Yeah.
okay? And
No, I dig it.
for me, because I'm
Yeah.
giving you the advice.
Yeah.
But no, it's a New Orleans is such a unique place, and I never knew how unique it was until I went to college
Yeah.
and I told people I was from New Orleans. They were like, Jody, who's from there? Like
Yeah.
you're the only person I've ever met from there, and
Yeah.
so that was a really cool moment for
That's
me.
cool. So if anyone wants to reach out, they want to learn more, any of the good business, where do they go?
Amazing. So, if you want to learn more about my work at Flourish Consulting as a relational engagement strategist, number one, feel free to visit my website, flourishconsultinginc.com. You can check me out on Instagram at Flourish Consulting Inc., on LinkedIn, or just reach out via email at jody@flourishconsultinginc.com. I love to learn about who you are, be in relationship with you, and help you craft a relational engagement strategy that can support you now and in the future.
I love it. Jody, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Joe. So much fun. Thanks for having
Yes,
me. Really appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you.
Hello, friends.
Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit jodimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.